Hey guys, good morning, and thanks for checking out your latest BAM WX long range forecast. Michael Clark here with BAM Weather. It is just before 7 a.m. Eastern Time. We're going to get right into the latest analysis and what we're seeing over the next 15 days, give you a brief update on weeks 3 and 4, and show you a brief seasonal forecast update for the winter outlook as well. I plotted some ranks this morning. These are historical standings of overall, what has been the story in comparison to dryness over the last 131 years? Some remarkable findings this morning over the last 30 days since basically August 20th. Note southern Minnesota, eastern South Dakota, northern Iowa, getting into Wisconsin. You have been basically the second driest period, maybe the third driest period in 131 years. And if you look over here across central Indiana, that has been going on as well. It's about the fifth driest period in 131 years. And then over here in northern Missouri and eastern Kansas, it has been about the sixth driest period in 131 years. What this is doing is a couple of things. Obviously, it's depleting soil moisture rather rapidly. But what this is also doing is rapidly speeding up the harvest for many, many folks because of that, coupled with temperatures, especially in the northern plains. It's been warm. It hasn't been as warm here over Indiana, but it has been dry. The drought has been expanding. It's historical dryness right now. It's a historical dry stretch for sure. In terms of temperature ranks, it hasn't been the hottest, but with as dry that it's been, you're in the top third here for warmest stretches in the last 30 days. So again, rapidly accelerating the ending the crop, and a lot of harvesting going on around here. It's September 20th. You guys feel free to ring at me. Message us or email us if I'm wrong, but it just seems awfully early around here compared to the last 10 years. I'm an avid whitetail deer hunter. I have about 400 acres here in Southwest Indiana that I hunt. And normally, last year, normally we're not getting crop out until a really late October, early November, a lot of times. So it's interesting to see a lot of it already coming out right now. And I think a lot of it's just due to the dryness and the pattern. Here is the look at precipitation forecast over the next 48 hours. All right, again, we're going to be looking at the majority of the activity across the north central plains, especially eastern Nebraska. We're going to have some rain work in. It's this time of year, rain's not really going to do a whole lot for anything other than delay folks possibly getting into the fields and getting things out. But there's a focus of the heaviest rain, obviously, here in eastern Nebraska over the next 48 hours. This is a look here at the little isolated devil here across Illinois. And we do see some stuff coming up the coast here as well over the next 48 hours. Now, the 10-day precip forecast is wet, it is active, and it is certainly going to put a huge dent in how dry it's been, especially here across the northern plains, the area we just talked about being one of the driest areas we've had in recent history for this time, or if not ever. And so this is going to be much welcomed rainfall again. Over the next week, if anyone is trying to get out and get some work done in the fields, this will delay that, of course, as precipitation starts to fire up. But look over here to the eastern belt. There's no sign of precipitation really to be seen. Coastal stuff going up the east coast, robbing some energy really from in that regard. So not mega active here. The temperatures over the next 5 days will continue to run warmer than average for the majority of the U.S. growing regions. Very warm in Texas. Cooler to the east, cooler to the west, okay? With rainfall in the east, and the cooler temperature is going to be awfully fall-like east and west, but very, very hot in the northern plains and Canadian prairies for the time of year. Precipitation percent of normal forecast. This is over 100 model ensemble average. High confidence in excessive rainfall here across Montana into the Dakotas. Very, very, very wet. And then 200% plus the normal the next 5 days in the area we just discussed. Again, running very dry here in the east in the 1 to 5 day period. We look at the 6 to 10 day period for temperatures. Gets a little cooler in the east. The same pattern overall. It actually heats up in the Canadian prairies, northern plains. Again, I believe just kind of ending the life cycle of the crop rather dramatically. You can't help but think this is going to impact the yield, and it most likely will in terms of just grain fill. Going into this time of year. Rather stagnant temperature pattern. Precipitation will continue to remain at or above normal here across the central plains. But again, note it's still dry in here, and no real signs of any big changes in the eastern belt. A lot of progress in harvest is going to be made here, I think. I mean, I don't know how close other fields are. Feel free to let us know what you're seeing. But this has been an interesting period because, listen, in October, I do believe that as we get into October, the pattern is going to get very active and wet. I do believe that's going to happen. So maybe you get a lot of work done before then. Maybe that's something to consider. The 11 to 15 day period continues to run very warm. This gets us out into the evening of October 5th. This is a 5-day aggregate of basically the first 5 days of October. I would caution that there is a big cold front that's in the cards here around the 6th or the 7th of October that we are watching right now that could bring season's first frost for many. We're going to continue to monitor that for sure. And then the precipitation forecast, for the most part, it continues to run dry. I mean, we're gonna see some action here in the Canadian prairies, central plains, kind of like we have seen. No evidence of a big change in here yet. The subtropical jet not quite yet firing up, but this area here, it is going to turn on. It is going to get active, and it's probably going to happen closer to the end of week 3 into week 4. Okay, here's the greatest probability for over an inch of rain the next 15 days. Again, an all-model ensemble says that our concentration of the greatest rainfall threats anywhere where it's yellow or brighter. Yellow is basically about a 70% chance or more. For the odds of an inch or more of rainfall. Okay, so just kind of letting you get a visual there of where that's going to set up. Now, remember, I talked about there's probably going to be a cold front. We can see indications of that in East Asia, day 8 or so. We see this front right here show up in East Asia, pretty big one. When I go to the GFS model, in the extended, you can always kind of get some clues if it's trying to see big fronts. The GFS is good for sniffing things out when you see it being possible. And there's the front right there. The GFS is saying, hey, 5th or 6th or 7th, there's probably going to be a big front with some pretty cold temperatures. And so that's something that we're going to watch here in the coming days. All right. Otherwise, the next 15 days, the pattern's stagnant and rather the same. New JMA weeklies, okay, from the Japanese Bureau of Meteorology has this is the week 3 forecast, big positive P&A, trough in the east. That's the cool down for week 3. All right. I do believe there's a cold, the 5th through the 10th or so of October can be cold, maybe through the 12th or so, colder in the east. All right. So there's the show up of that and the shift that we've been kind of talking about. Week 4, it kind of tries to revert back. And in recent El Nino Octobers, what happens is this area kind of favors more warmth, cooler out in here, and in between a battle zone sets up of precipitation in the central U.S., where I think it can get very wet into the deep south, up into the lower Midwest and Ohio Valley here as we get into mid-October. Something to keep in mind is that the pattern does look to ramp up and get active possibly here mid to late October for sure. A quick check on seasonal data for winter. The new IRI multi-model ensemble came out. Here is the DJF, the winter ENSO forecast, okay? And essentially what you can see is that we're anywhere from a +1 to a +2 on ENSO. It's a moderate to potentially strong El Nino forecast. There are a few models in here that go Super Nino status. One being the looks like let's find it. Looks like the KMA, probably the Korean forecast seasonal forecast model. The Met France, the Media France, the weather model from France, and then the Australian AUS Access, the Australian Bureau of Meteorology. And then there's one other one in here, the ECMWF, which really has caught my attention. You can kind of see the top four warmest ones here, right here, into that Super Nino category. And those are just statistically, Bode, very warm for the Great Lakes into the north and east, cooler down to the south, but a very, very, very active storm track. I think what you're going to note is winter overall is going to probably be rather warm. And with this, the indication of this, I think there can be a couple of really big snowstorms. HDDs for the winter probably running below normal. However, with that said, late season, late January into February, there could be a punch of very cold air in a stormy period. Sometimes that happens in these stronger El Ninos, but gosh, December, January looking awfully torchy right now based on if we're going into a Super Nino. Those are not cold winters for the most part. That's all I have for today. If you have anything and you have any questions at all, any way we can help, reach out to us. Thanks for logging on, and we'll talk to you soon.